It's time to begin our cell model. Juwan is going to help me out by building it. Let's head over to the lab and see what he's picked to represent the cell membrane.
Hi everybody! I'm going to make a 3D cell model using different things to represent the organelles. I'm going to start with this plastic bag, which will be the cell membrane. If you're going to make your own cell model, remember that the membrane needs to be flexible enough to allow the cell to move and thin enough to show that it's semi-permeable. You know, it controls what goes in and out of the cell. I'll be back in a little while to show you the other organelles after Mrs. Morgan introduces them.
Thanks, Juwan. We'll check back with you in a few minutes. Now, let's look at the organelles inside the cell membrane. The cytoplasm includes everything inside the cell membrane except the nucleus. Also part of the cytoplasm is the cytosol, a gel-like fluid made up of mostly water, proteins, and some chemicals. Take a look at the inside of this egg. This liquid is like cytosol. But the jelly-like area in this cell just doesn't sit there. There's a lot going on in this gooey space outside the nucleus. Many of the cell's life processes, such as making proteins and dissolving waste, take place in the cytoplasm. It also keeps the organelles moving in a process called cytoplasmic streaming. Within the cytoplasm is a scaffold or skeleton called the cytoskeleton. It's made of long, thin protein fibers and microtubules. It provides strength, support, and shape for the cell. It also anchors the organelles and helps the cell move. When you look at a cell through a microscope, the first part you may see, mainly because it's the largest part, is the nucleus. A cell that has a nucleus is a eukaryote. Most multicellular organisms, like humans, are eukaryotic. Cells that don't have a nucleus are called prokaryotes. Bacteria fall into this category. The nucleus is the control center for everything that happens inside a cell. The nucleus directs the organelles to make sure everything functions properly. Just like you use instructions to build something, the nucleus contains all the instructions to tell the cell what to do. Those instructions are in the form of deoxyribonucleic acid, or DNA. DNA is the hereditary information that cells need to function. The nucleus sends those instructions to each organelle, builds proteins, and keeps track of the DNA. The nucleus has its own membrane called the nuclear envelope. It's also semi-permeable, allowing proteins and ribonucleic acid, or RNA, to enter or leave the nucleus. RNA is chemically similar to DNA and provides a copy of the instructions for building proteins needed by the cell. Inside the nucleus is the nucleolus, shown here as a small, round, dark area. Cells may have one or more nucleoli, or none at all. The nucleolus helps build ribosomes, the cell's protein producers. An organelle located just outside the nucleus is the centrosome. Inside the centrosome are a pair of smaller organelles called centrioles. They lie perpendicular to each other near the nucleus and are composed of microtubules. The centrioles play a role in cell division. When a cell divides using mitosis or meiosis, the centrioles migrate to the poles of the cell and create the spindles. The spindles act like cables that pull the cell apart. Now that I've reviewed the cytoplasm, the cytoskeleton, the nucleus, the nucleolus, and centrioles, it's time to head back to Juwan's lab to see these organelles in his 3D cell. Take it away, Juwan.
Thanks, Mrs. Morgan. I'm going to use this gel to represent the cytoplasm. We can imagine that it's full of chemicals, water, and proteins. I'm going to use this bowl for support. The cytoskeleton will be these thin straws used to represent the microtubules, and this thin spaghetti will be the filaments. The nucleus will be the largest organelle. I'm going to use this plastic sphere as the nucleus. Inside, I'm going to put the DNA, which are pipe cleaners twisted into a double helix, and the nucleolus, this dark marble. The DNA contains all the instructions for the cell, and the nucleolus helps make ribosomes. The nuclear envelope will be the plastic shell. For the centrioles, I'm going to use these noodles. They work during cell division. What happens is the centrioles replicate or copy themselves and create spindles that pull the cell apart. Like that. I'm going to place the centrioles perpendicular to each other near the nucleus. It's looking pretty good so far. Let's head back to Mrs. Morgan's lab to find out about the other organelles.
Great job, Juwan.